would like to say good afternoon, and on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, I would like to welcome our special guest today, Ms. Marcelia Henry, who is the Secretary General of UNESCO, here today to make a presentation to the Tourist Bureau, a presentation that I, as Minister, find very important because it deals with the culture and heritage of us, Sint Maarten, the product that we sell to the world. I'm sure Ms. Henry will elaborate a little more on the purpose of the initiative that has been undertaken by UNESCO. But it's my pleasure to welcome the staff of the Tourist Bureau here today and the staff of my cabinet to get a first-hand view of this initiative that has been undertaken by UNESCO to chronicle the cultural heritage of Sint Maarten, and as such, understand how that affects us as citizens of this country, and also how we fit in terms of how we sell it to the rest of the world. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ms. Henry to the podium to make her presentation. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here today to give this presentation that is presently being executed, ongoing within the community. And I felt it was necessary for me to also give the presentation to the tourist department, which is also a very essential key stakeholder in terms of Sint Maarten's cultural heritage. So I will commence. This project, which is being undertaken by the Sint Maarten National Commission for UNESCO, is basically cataloging Sint Maarten's cultural heritage. And when we talk about cultural heritage, we're going to be discussing the tangible aspect of it and the intangible aspect of it. So I will begin. UNESCO, which is the office that I am presently responsible for in Sint Maarten, has been associate member, let's say, of UNESCO. Sint Maarten has been associate member since October 2011. I am presently situated within the Staff Bureau of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. And more so, I am presently located at the John Smith building. I don't know if you all are familiar where Penny's department store is. Right across upstairs, that is where the UNESCO's office is located. The vision for UNESCO is to contribute towards the building of peace, sustainable development, and intercultural dialogue through education, science, culture, communication, and information. Some of the projects I am presently undertaking within the schools on Sint Maarten is introducing them to some of UNESCO's program. One program that I would like you all to be aware of is the Transatlantic Slave Trade Education Project, which comprises of various lesson plans that I have presently sent out to all school boards, and the school boards are presently trying to incorporate it in the existing curriculum. So this is one of the projects that the UNESCO office is also undertaking that I wanted you to be aware of. The next project that I am also executing within the school system is also the curriculum known as the Sandwatch Project, which is focusing on preserving our natural resources, our coastal areas. This curriculum is also being piloted at various schools on Sint Maarten. The International Days. I know your particular department also celebrates various international days. This is also one of the core tasks of the UNESCO office to make more of the international days be observed by NGOs and government organizations on Sint Maarten. So now going to the core of the presentation. When I go into the various organizations within the Sint Maarten community, or even when I go into the schools, I ensure that they are familiar with those 5 terms. What is culture? What is cultural heritage? What is tangible cultural heritage? And what is intangible cultural heritage? I always present a definition of what culture is. And to make it more home, I put a little picture there of I Love My Ram Gold competition, which I love. And this is some of the elements or some of the key things that make Sint Maarten, Sint Maarten. Then the question that I asked the people when I gave the presentation, and the question I'm going to ask you now. What are some examples of Sint Maarten's culture? When you think about Sint Maarten, I know we tend to promote the sand, the sun, the sea. But in terms of Sint Maarten's culture, in your opinion, what would you say? Just one or two of you all. Fish and Johnny cake. What else? Give me another aspect of Sint Maarten's culture. The marketplace. One more. The Panam dance. And we have other aspects of Sint Maarten's culture. When I give the presentation, again, cultural heritage is expressed as tangible and intangible. I provide the organizations with a definition once again. When we're talking about tangible cultural heritage, we're talking about things that are built. We are talking about the natural environment. We are looking as well as the artifacts. So these things need to be clear. And we will go on to the next one. And then I provide them with a pictorial. If we were to take an example, built environment, if I were to ask you, the pictures on top, which country comes to mind when you see that? The picture on top. Holland. Some people would say England with the rocks. Some would say Scotland with the rocks. Some people would even say with the town, they would say Curacao. That looks like Curacao. But that's the built environment. So you just see a picture and that is associated with that particular country and their cultural heritage. The same thing with the natural environment and the artifacts. So again, give me some examples of Sint Maarten's tangible cultural heritage. What are some of our built environment? The courthouse. What else? The Great Salt Pond, you would classify that as a natural environment. Do we have any artifacts that still remain? Any artifacts? Fort Amsterdam, but Fort Amsterdam would be the built environment, but if you're talking about the cannons that are still there, those are the artifacts, or even the ball, the cannonballs, those are some artifacts that still remain. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So I provide them with a pictorial. So they can get to, and let's say that the concept can really understand. So I provide them with pictures of things that they should know. Then we go on to the next one. And then not only the built, I provide them with the statues, because the statues, that's Sint Maarten. And these are some of the things that we need to be affiliating our guests with. When they think of Sint Maarten, they need to affiliate themselves with those statues, with those built environments. And there's Mr. Emilio Wilson, Miss Ruby Butte, and Mr. Roland Richardson. So people need to start associating themselves with those persons who are making contributions in those areas who are also Sint Maarten. Then, the artifacts, our museum. The question I always ask, when was the last time you were at the museum? Do you know what a museum is? All right, okay, just needed to make sure. Yes, but the museum, I am amazed. I went there up to January, and it's getting smaller. It's getting more, When I go up there, it's beautiful, but I can't appreciate everything because it's too close. It's not big enough to display our cultural heritage. And I feel that, yes, we need a new building. Yes, we need somewhere to display what is us. Okay, so artifacts. Then I go into the definition of intangibles. So they know the built environment. They know the natural environment. They know the artifacts. Okay, that's tangible cultural heritage. But now what's intangible? Intangible you can't feel, you can't touch. But what is it? It is our oral traditions. It's our expressions. It's our Sint Maarten talk. That's our intangible cultural heritage. It's passed on from generation. We can't touch our language, but we pass it on. Our mannerism, our dialects, even our expressions, that comes along with our oral tradition, our storytelling. Then our performing arts. With the performing arts, that's where we have our panam, like the minister mentioned. We have our string band, like Tanya and the boys. And we have even the debate about the steel pan. But the York family have passed it on for generation, so probably steel pan. But I will come to that later on. Then our social practices, our rituals and our festive events. Whenever I mention social practices, rituals and festive events, the first thing people come with Carnival. But there are other things that we do too. We just had Good Friday. How many of you all ate a hamburger on Good Friday? You see, that is a social practice. That's a ritual that goes along with Easter. And then what did we do yesterday? Beach. That's also part of our cultural heritage. And then knowledge and practices concerned in the nature and the universe. There are many people who still practice the use of the herbs, the bush teas, the lemongrass, and all of those different things. Something happened, oh, you just use that. You go to some of those elder persons and others that they're passing on. So there are knowledge concerning things and practices that they use late way back that are still being continued. And then finally, our traditional craftsmanship. We have a lot of craft persons. You all are familiar with the Sint Maarten Sint Maarten Crafts Association. Crafters, that's the word, Sint Maarten Crafters Association. And every Wednesday, they have their event by the Simpson Bay Fish Market. I went down there and I was very present. I was pleased. But for me to get after work and go Simpson Bay, and that's an issue. But we want that to be more visible. There are jewelry, there are dolls, there are the goodies that they make, but how many people are going to pick up from where they go to Simpson Bay? Why isn't it more central where everybody can see it and appreciate it? Okay, so these are things. So when we're talking about intangible, we're looking at those 5 areas. And I always provide them once again with a pictorial. So I provide them with the tani, and I provide them with the panam, provide them with the arrowroot jollification, which is on, it's revived, it has come back alive. And I have to thank the Nature Value Foundation, the ladies who are keeping this alive. Then we have the Lulu dolls with Miss Esther Narcisco. We have Yumi and the drummers, the new generation status band. That is an aspect of drum bands that came from before. The Phillipsburg Brass Band and all of those other people did it before, but they are taking it on along another journey and kind of modernizing it a little bit more. And then, yes, there's your sawfish. Yeah, there's your sawfish and Johnny cake. I was trying there, but we have more than just sawfish. I always hear from the young people, chicken leg and Johnny cake. All right, that's one version. What else do you know about Sint Maarten's food? And then when I get into the conchs and dumpling and the low curry and all these, and the pea soup, they're like, but what is? But this is also part of our cultural heritage that our children also need to know. Then last year, July 3rd to the 4th, there was a huge group of key stakeholders that came together, and a draft intangible cultural heritage inventory list were put together. They came up and they started writing down what they consider to be Sint Maarten's intangible cultural heritage, which is what I want to share with you at this moment. But before we go there, these are some questions that we need to consider and we need to reflect on. 1, are these examples still part of Sint Maarten's intangible cultural heritage? That's a question we need to ask. Are these examples still being practiced? And if they are, why? And if they are no longer practiced, why not? Then we need to look at the list and say, what from this list is worth safeguarding? 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 What from this list is worth safeguard what is worth reviving? And should some examples just be abandoned? So these are some discussions that I'm engaging in with those persons that I give this presentation to. So this is what they came up with. And they said in terms of the traditional expressions, they talk about poetry, spoken word performances. They consider that to be part of Sint Maarten's intangible heritage. They talk about the Christmas caroling, the house-to-house serenading. And they also mentioned, too, that I need to share, that some of our laws have caused a number of our ICH, intangible cultural heritage, to disappear. Food for thought. They also talk about calypso, the Sint Maarten talk, the Sint Maarten proverbs or sayings. They also talk about traditional local names for plants, animals, places, and then they mention even Kimsha. Kimsha, they said, was, listen, the beach is named Kimsha. That was named after, what, anyone remembers? Why is it called Kimsha? That is not the name of the beach. It was a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant was there. So these are some things that from the discussion and dialogue, we came up with these things. They came up and they provided me with this list. The storytelling at the ending of the day, and the Nancy stories. And I have to tell you that as I go from one group to another, this will be changed. This will be updated because I got more. What is in here? The Jumbi stories. That's something that this group did not mention when they met, but with the other groups that I've been interviewing, they talk about Jumbi stories. And there might be certain things that you may come up with that is not here. So I will be sharing with you the presentation. Now, in terms of performing arts, they talk about calypso again. So calypso spread throughout. They said it's a oral tradition, but they said it's also a performance. They talk about the traditional dance, the punam, the square dance, the male pole dance. They talk about the tusu dance, the bouquet dance. Are you all familiar with any of those dances besides the punam and the square dance? The maypole. Who remember the maypole? With Miss Thelma Gums, with the pole, and then they're going around, tying. Yeah. Now the question is that worth reviving? So these are the questions and the dialogues that we need to have. Then it talk about the bouquet dance. The bouquet dance, from the feedback I got from the persons that we interviewed, at the ending of the dance, there was a bouquet. And the person who hosts the dance at their home would take it and then they would throw it. And the person who caught the bouquet, they would have to host the next dance at their house. And these are things they said because, and these are some of the comments I got, they said because of the laws. They said because of the law stating that you needed to have a separate bathroom for male and a separate bathroom for females, they said that dances like that went out of style because people couldn't afford it. That's what I got the feedback from the persons we interviewed. So you used to have your house dance, all those different things. The string band, the makajumbi. Did you know Sint Maarten had wire dancers? These are things that we found out. During the first week of January, there was wire dances, just like they do on the wires, like when you go on those Cirque du Soleil, going up. That was on Sint Maarten too. And it was done during the first week of January. Then the steel pan performance. Social practices. Carnival, of course, was number one. The family day at the beach, which Easter keeps alive. The jollification. Again, this was one of them that they said because of the law, particularly on the front side, where they are not allowed to engage in such. Someone just can't come over to help you. They said that is not allowed on the front side because of their laws. So this here is being impede in terms of its continuation, but I think it still is continued on the dot side. Well, I would hope so. I might need help, finishing my house with that. Yeah, but these are some of the things that they said was St. Martin's culture, and we need to revive them. They talk about the Arrowroot Festival, which is on its way back, the Fish Day. I love my ram in Colombia. The public dances, which they used to call the bullfight, because everybody used to come. The ring games. When was the last time you heard a ring game? There's a brown girl in the ring, tra la 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 la. Simple things like that, we don't hear them anymore. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Again, those things, do we need to revive them? That's a question we need to ask. The ringing of the church bell they talked about, this used to happen a lot. We only hear the ringing of the church bell Sunday. 5 minutes before 8, and then 8 o'clock again, the Catholic. Yeah, it still does. I still live in town, so I still hear it. I hear it every Sunday. The baptism ceremonies. Okay, we go to the next one. The marriage ceremonies between dollies. You know, we used to have that as in Saba, and I saw this in Bonaire and areas of Aruba. It still continued. The bride and groom going with the procession, the entourage towards the churches. They talk about the raffling the meat, the picking the salt, the wakes. They even talk about the closing of the stores when there's a funeral. Does this happen? Do the stores actually close now? But this is something that we used to practice. Again, is this something we need to abandon? Is this something we need to revive? This is a discussion that we need to have. The passing the baby over the coffin. My father was one of those babies that they pass over the coffin when his grandmother died. Is that still practice? Horse racing. I found out from my grandmother, there used to be horse racing from French Quarter going all the way down to where the RBTT Bank or the ABM Bank used to be. All day you used to have horse racing. Do we want that anymore? The cockfighting. This is the controversial one that everybody that we talked about had an issue. Some had an issue with it. Man, brutality. Some said, but that we culture, especially the males. Yeah, so these are discussions we need to have. Then the partner hand. Partner hand still continues, right? Okay. The boat racing. Why don't we have boat racing on St. Maarten anymore? Why is it just in Anguilla? Do we still build boats? Some people do. The traditional fishing methods, pots. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I need to have that confirmed by Vromi that the use of fishing pots are no longer allowed to be used. I've heard that, but I don't know how true it is. So this would need to be confirmed because there are still people who actually still make their fishing pots. And then I'll go a little quicker, the pitching marbles. And the chucking of the cherry nuts. That was something, the spinning of the tops. So these are some of the other things that we have gotten from other people that will be added. The jumping and skipping rope. And then you go to your local food and drinks. The preparation and so forth are also important, which are part of St. Maarten's intangible cultural heritage. The sugar cakes and the diabetes and all that stuff, the coconut tarts and the pudding, but this is something that is part of St. Maarten. You know, every Easter, you know, every Christmas, every New Year's, you need to have certain things. The making of the guava berry. Do we still grow our own guava berry? There are some people who still do. And there are some people who still make their own guava berry rum, which they said that in comparison to what we have here by the Imperium, they said it's a different taste. You see, so these are things that the making of even the simple marby, the tea punch, the tamarind juice, the prickle pear juice, the guava jam and cheese. These as well are part of St. Maarten's intangible cultural heritage. And then, concerning the nature, knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, they even mention Obeah. Is Obeah part of St. Maarten's intangible cultural heritage? Well, some people thought so. They talk about the cooking in the ground. Do we still do that? I know there was a demonstration, one at the Emilia Wilson, where they put the pig underneath. Who still do that? You see? But these are things that are part of us. And then I'll pick a little bit the making of the cold keel. Those are St. Martin's intangible cultural heritage. The use of the aloes, the bush tea, the soursop leaves, and all of those different things are part of St. Martin. And as you can see, the rock wall construction. What are we doing to preserve the remaining rock walls that still remain? But the process of making it, the lime burning and so forth, the process is the intangible cultural heritage, while the actual rock wall would be the tangible, the artifacts that remain. Then the final list is the traditional craftsmanship, the rum making, the cold keel, the fishing pots, the kite making. When was the last time you made a kite? Especially you, male minister. When was the last time you made a kite? All right, he's way too busy for that. But wouldn't you want to show one of the young children in school how to make a kite? And then we have our kite competition that can be revived. Isn't that something that we can do? So this is what this project is causing us to think. What are we going to revive? Or what are we going to let die a natural death? And then some more, the sewing of the clothes, even the wooden house, construction, even these things, there's a skill and the process. That is the intangible cultural heritage. And even the weaving. I think there is one young man that I see on Front Street, he still weaves. Wouldn't we want him to be teaching our young children how to do so? So then that can become a possible way for them to earn some extra funds? Who knows? And then there are the making of the musical instruments. So after I've gone through all of that and I get them to give their opinion, because when I do this, I have it very interactive. So what do you think about this? Is there something missing from the list? And then we have that back and forth interaction. What I make sure they understand that the cultural heritage is a source of our identity. If we don't know what our cultural heritage is, we're just going to be, let's say, little puppets mocking other people's culture, and then we don't know who we are really as a St. Martiner. So it is important that we know what our tangible cultural heritage and our intangible cultural heritage, because it makes us more proud of who we are. So it is the source of our identity. That is something that I make known when I give the presentation. And then I also let them know that learning about our heritage help us become more keenly aware of our own roots and understand the wealth of other cultures and people. But we need to know about ourselves first. And then the benefits. Patriotism. Why do we need to safeguard our intangible culture? Build a sense of who we are, identity, pride in our cultural heritage, gratification for what our ancestors left behind, and what we now need to think about, what we need to preserve to remain for the next generation.